fantastic event and an amazing evening, and I'm just delighted to welcome everybody here to share this really wonderful art. This year's exhibition is the fourth collaboration that we've had with Kingston University and the Arts Project. We've got people from the local community, we have service users, we have people who are self-taught, we have people who are professional, all inspired by that theme of health for all. So really could not be more relevant actually, not just here because we are a hospital, but really relevant in today's society, I feel, don't you?
And when we were thinking about the competition for this year, we got some of the students that had been with Michelle to Uganda to come and talk to the rest of the students, and we asked them to come up with one word that they thought summed up the spirit and ethos of the Nurses Reaching Out campaign. And those words you asked them to write in wool. Not prepared to stop there though, we wanted them to encourage writers and poets to perhaps submit 100 words based on the theme in those words. The panel felt that Bola's submission reflected the charity Nurses Reaching Out, and he's used a number of words that use around the place.
When you look at health for all as a concept, it's something that we can take for granted. But around the world, there's a lot of people that are not born with good health. And that was the theme of what I kind of wrote into my little words. So it was quite a pleasure actually writing it, but it was quite touching to write something like that. So thank you. And one last thing, I'd like to donate this to Nurses Reaching Out as well.
One of your great skills, Peter, is to bring, not only to bring people together, but to bring artwork together.
As it's the home territory for the Trust, I think it's quite important to bring in people directly linked here. But even then, I very much rely on the groundwork that you start with Art of Caring. And this year, the more I come and visit it, the more I think there's more than meets the eye in this exhibition.
It's one of my favourite pieces in the exhibition, and it's so individual, but every year we go into the Kingston University and talk to the student nurses there and try to get them involved in the art of caring. But we gave them a card like this, and we gave them a bit of wool, and we asked them to write a word on their bit of paper. It's a Norwegian word that means the right to receive treatment.
Oh, okay.
Right, that's just to say, I think the handwriting stuff's so beautiful.
Yeah.
See here, you'll see a whole variety of different languages, including Arabic from the look of it, Japanese, there's even a Rastafarian one. But and I think it shows how the nurses, all the student nurses, come from so many different countries to work here in our NHS.
Well, I'm always looking for exhibitions for Grace and myself, you know, because I'm an artist as well. Yeah. I saw the postcard exhibition, which was in South London in St George's Hospital. And I just thought, oh, this would work for both of us. I've got these 3 little aluminium paintings that were about Care Without Borders, and I was thinking about your work, about your accident. You know, I did a fine art degree when I was 50 and my son was 21. It's a very typical women's experience, in fact. So now I'm excited about being in that show as much as Grace is.
Laura and the OT department decided to put my work here. And I was really, really appreciative, you know. Peter Herbert, him and Laura from Highgate got together and arranged for me to take some pictures down to St Pancras.
There was a group of artists, a set in Camden, called 5 Women Artists Plus. And every year they had an exhibition in St Pancras Old Church, which is next door to the hospital. And Mari came along to the private view and came up to me and she said, I've got a marvellous idea. I think you should paint our very, very oldest resident. And it just went on from there. And I was there probably from about 1986 until the early 90s.
So I submitted my work to the Art of Caring at St George's Hospital, which was, compared to this one at St Pancras, quite a small show, but still was a very high interest to me. So I submitted 3 different portraits. Empress Zorditu Ishua, because I feel like she was the most striking and the most popular of previous shows. And then Veroline Vassell, and then another pioneering nurse, Violet Mayhales. And I thought it'd be good to show the earliest pioneers of the series.
When I get to St George's, I've learnt this from you, is to break it down into groups. So the first year I did it from numbered 1 to 500, and I just put them on the wall. And then I realised that your skill in grouping work. So I go through and I think about people, I think about themes, I think about there's lots of hands we get every year, we get colours, we get patterns.
Given the nature of how we get the work, I don't often get to meet the artists. I don't get a chance to speak to them about what they're doing.
I like an exhibition where you don't know anything about them and you have to do a little bit of work. I think it's really good. I think it's really, it's a way in, it's an entry exhibition this. It helps people find other artists.
Tell Anna why you like scale, the big scale. Why do you like working big?
Because it makes me feel massive.
Feel great.
Really tough and strong. I got hit by a car 7 or 8 years ago. She was driving her car and it almost killed me. I was getting off the bus, the school bus, and it got hit, and then it got hit me. It's like really tragic. My life really went downhill from there.
When you're in hospital, they said you wouldn't walk or read or write or even speak properly.
No.
But your mum and dad made a lot of effort.
Yeah, they did.
And also, you're really bright, Grace, aren't you?
I was always very bright.
Yeah. And it's like somehow that
Brightness
it
stayed.
never went away and it helped you get...
If it is 5, I'm fiver. Give me a fiver. Jonathan Busson, piece of the fiver.
I can't remember. I think she just said, "Would you? My daughter needs a bit of help with a FE College art project." It was HNC, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And then I kind of got sucked into Team Grace, and then you never get away.
Never get away.
But it's been great, yeah. And I would, as I just said to her, I wouldn't stay with her if I didn't like her. And I don't know anything. I haven't known anything about head injury, which is very specific to each person, isn't it? And so a lot of what I do is just rehearsing short-term memory loss stuff. It's just going over and reminding, do you remember what you did last week, you know, that kind of thing, because you always do what you want to do, don't you? So that makes it a lot easier for me, because my worry has always been, you know, not to impose my stuff onto Grace. So I've got a really different art practice. We have together made films about where you're talking about not, you know, the difficulty of having no privacy and 24/7 care, and that's gradually changed because
She's all moving out.
Yeah, moving into a house of her own. Yeah, that's a massive jump up, and also getting a boyfriend.
I got that one.
The lovely Benny boy, which is giving you a lot more independence.
I was had a boyfriend though.
That thing of being happy.
Yeah.
Has made such a difference. Happiness changes that. And if you're happy, you just like jumped, like everything kind of, your memory, your even reading and writing and you know, which you're beginning to get back into a bit, aren't you?
Not doing it today.
Not doing it today, no. I was inspired to make these 3 little oil paintings on aluminium because when you paint with oil and aluminium, it's very light, the light shines through. So they're kind of in the middle of each panel. For me, the NHS is wonderful.
Yeah,
and
it's lovely.
my mum and dad fought for it, you know, and that was that you get care at the point of need. So care without borders is a really important idea to me. So I made one piece about the Grenville massacre and how the community came together to support people in that. Another piece about people drowning in the Mediterranean, about people trying to improve their lives and save their lives and their children's lives, and then they drown in the crossing, which is a terrible thing. And then the last one is really a young man experiencing grief in a war situation.
What I do remember is coming into the ward, going to the ward, and the art therapist said, come and do some art. So I ended up doing art, you know, because they kept on calling, come and do some art. And that was like 15 years ago. Being in hospital, not getting out, you want to go outside and you can't. You know, if you do art or you've got some kind of creative activity going on, you can get healed. Yeah, it just worked, you know, it just turned out that I could scribble and draw and paint. It came like easy for me, but it's very hard now. You know, most probably because I've done a lot of art and drawing, but I've got to wait a little bit longer to be inspired. They're all different, the pictures, but the same theme is going through the pictures. Am I okay? Am I okay? And like when I paint and do a canvas, the picture that I put there, I go back to it later and see that I'm healed, and I can see what I've done with the picture. I don't remember doing them, that's all. Yeah, the first picture on the flyer is a picture of me. It's me on the bed looking miserable, and the other faces around me are the funky people. I call them funky people, you know, they go small, they're so small, let me draw them. Or it could be a gentleman, you know, anybody, or, you know, patient, but definitely it's somebody I'm hearing the voices around them. Lately I've been able to draw them as well, so it's like I hear and see them now. They come alive and they say, oh, do that and stroke there, or they wriggle around on the canvas and say, you can have that there, or we'll stay still and do that, and then, you know, they really do guide me and tell me, you know, what to do.
And looking around me here in the exhibition, I see figurative work. There's a wonderful wall that has a more homely feel, which has Jane Allison, Lou Spira, embroidery. It draws you in through nature. I mean, that's one of our major walls here.
They were actually quite at the forefront of you know, elderly person's care, weren't they?
Yes.
You know, and they were very sort of practical but caring, you know. Mari Owens, who was the person in charge, was determined they were going to continue to have stimulating experiences.
So she was very progressive in that.
And the fact they were sort of stuck in an old people's home wasn't the end of their life as far as she was concerned. And so she would get all the nurses, with great effort, to wheel them all out into the gardens. This is Miss Jane Claridge, who was 101. And she said, well, you've got my features. She was one who thought it was a bit dull and that I needed a pom-pom in her hair. And Jane Claridge had spent her entire life curling ostrich feathers. And they all had lived behind St Pancras Station all their lives. As to sit for a portrait is something that historically you only did if you were either very rich, very famous, or perhaps very loved. And so most of these people had had very, very hard working lives and no money whatsoever. And so for them, the experience of sitting for a portrait was quite a unique thing. But for me, it was a very interesting thing to do because I could paint the portraits I wanted to paint rather than painting for a client. And so it gave me a freedom.
The thing I should have done is painted Mari, and I never painted Mari. And I mean, I spoke to Mari this morning, I still see Mari on a regular basis.
Ah.
And we go on holiday together.
So the commission, Here to Stay, began in March 2018. I've been working with the Windrush generation for 6 years now. And originally the commission was supposed to be exhibited in Sandwell, just for the month, I think, just in October anyway, for a Black History Month celebration. It links very strongly to a previous project called West Indies to West Midlands, which is about West Indian War veterans who served in the British military. And that was hard because that took a good year and a half, and then I had my first solo show. I mean, that was completely independent. That's when I was first learning about working in partnership with organisations. I managed to exhibit it in a venue called The Drum. I've had to sustain my practice with other income, but I quite like that. I quite like the variation of it, and I like the separation between what I'm doing for money and what I'm doing because I feel compelled to do it and I believe that it needs to exist. I've also worked in partnership with an organisation called We Are All Windrush. So the thinking behind that is anyone of the Windrush generation is linked enough to Windrush to be part of it and to represent it and show solidarity. Before I'd even finished the series, someone contacted me from London and said, I'd love for you to come and show this work. And he managed to get a place for me on Brick Lane to exhibit. So that was quite special. Huge footfall. Hundreds of people would have seen that within those few days from all over the world, not just from London. And then it toured back to Birmingham and it was shown in Birmingham City Centre. October, it finally went to Sandwell, which was where it was first intended to be shown. And it's still on permanent display there. So there's more for this year now as well.
Because that's fabulous, isn't it, that gallery? And it inspires me when I see people's work, you know, my work. And, you know, you can just know the efforts and it goes into the artwork. It's really a nice place to have your picture put up, you know, of the hospital.
So we are very, very privileged here to be able to have the leadership that we have with this programme of work that's always going on, and that we open it up and all the visitors that come in on a daily basis, some of whom I have to say are quite surprised when they come the first time. They walk through the door and there's this great art gallery that they weren't expecting in the kind of, you know, the first corridor of a hospital. But all of those people, all of those visitors, I see them looking at our walls and benefiting from that amazing art.